Muppet charity case. Real passengers need those seats.
The words slice through the busy gate area like a knife through silk. Bradley Whitmore stands there in his $1,000 suit, diamond-encrusted watch catching the fluorescent lights, pointing his manicured finger directly at Dr. Marcus Bennett. The snap of Bradley's fingers echoes with the kind of entitlement that money can't buy, but privilege assumes. Marcus Bennett, 45 years old, stands quietly in his charcoal hoodie and dark jeans. His wife, Sophia, 42, elegant in her simple navy dress, grips his arm tighter. They're holding boarding passes for seats 2A and 2B first class on SkyTech Airlines Flight 447 to London, their 25th wedding anniversary trip. The first luxury vacation they've ever taken. "These seats are ours," Marcus says calmly, his voice steady as morning coffee. Confirmation in hand. Bradley laughs a sound like breaking glass. "Right. And I'm supposed to believe you two can afford first class." He turns to Carmen Rodriguez, the gate agent whose nameplate catches the light. "Carmen, sweetie, there's obviously been some mistake. People like this don't fly first class." Carmen Rodriguez, 38, 15 years with the airline, looks between Bradley's flashy confidence and Marcus's quiet dignity. She's seen this before. The calculation happens in her eyes. Wealthy white man in expensive clothes versus black couple in casual wear. The math seems simple to her. Sir Carmen addresses Marcus. "There seems to be a system error with your reservation. Can you step aside while I verify your booking?" Around them, gate B47 buzzes with the usual airport chaos. Rolling suitcases, crying children, boarding announcements bleeding together into white noise. But something shifts in the atmosphere. Other passengers begin to notice. Phones start to emerge. Eyes start watching. Marcus doesn't move. His voice remains calm, but something dangerous flickers behind his eyes. "In exactly 23 minutes, this airline will cease to exist." Bradley snorts. "Is that supposed to be a threat? Security?" He waves his hand dramatically. "We have a problem here." Sophia squeezes Marcus's arm. She knows that tone. She's heard it twice before in their 25 years together. Once, when a hospital administrator tried to block Marcus from the operating room because he didn't look like a surgeon. Once, when a bank manager questioned their mortgage application despite their perfect credit. Both institutions later regretted their assumptions. Baby Sophia whispers, "Are you sure about this?" Marcus looks at his wife, the woman who stood by him through medical school, through residency, through the years of building their company from nothing. They made their choice, love. Now they live with the consequences. The countdown begins now. 23 minutes until Bradley Whitmore's world collapses. 23 minutes until Carmen Rodriguez loses everything. 23 minutes until SkyTech Airlines becomes a case study in how prejudice destroys empires. None of them know it yet. But the man they're dismissing the charity case in the casual clothes owns the ground they're standing on. Marcus Bennett didn't always have power. He earned it the hard way, carved it from stone with his bare hands in the projects of Detroit, where gunshots were lullabies and hope was rationed like bread during wartime. At 6 years old, Marcus watched his father leave for work at the auto plant every morning at 4:30 a.m. By 8 years old, he was walking himself to school because his mother worked double shifts cleaning office buildings downtown. By 12, he was tutoring older kids in math for 25 cents a session, saving every quarter in a coffee can hidden under his bed. Education is the only ladder out of this hole, his mother Dorothy Bennett told him every night as she tucked him in. "Climb it, baby. Climb it and don't look back." Marcus climbed. Valedictorian at Cass Technical High School. Full scholarship to University of Michigan. Medical degree with honors. Neurosurgery residency at Johns Hopkins, where he was the only black resident in his program. The other residents called him Scholarship Boy behind his back. The attending physicians questioned his diagnoses twice as often as his white colleagues. Nurses handed surgical instruments to white medical students instead of him assuming he was the orderly. But Marcus had learned something in those Detroit streets that his privileged colleagues never would. He learned that dignity doesn't require approval from others. He learned that respect is taken, not given. And he learned that the best revenge against prejudice is excellence, so undeniable that it rewrites the rules. At 32, Dr. E2, Marcus Bennett performed the first successful separation of conjoined twins connected at the brainstem in Michigan's history. The surgery took 18 hours. The world took notice. But Marcus was already looking beyond medicine. During his recovery time between surgeries, Marcus taught himself computer programming. While other doctors played golf, he studied market algorithms. While his colleagues bought vacation homes, Marcus invested in technology companies that most people had never heard of. Blockchain, artificial intelligence, clean energy, companies that solved problems other people didn't know existed yet. By 38, Bennett Dynamics was born, a technology conglomerate that specialized in solving problems through innovation. Their first major contract, developing AI-assisted surgical tools for hospitals worldwide. Their second, creating blockchain solutions for secure medical records. Their third, revolutionizing airline logistics through predictive maintenance algorithms. The company grew quietly, deliberately. Marcus preferred operating in the shadows, letting results speak louder than marketing campaigns. Bennett Dynamics never advertised. They didn't need to. When corporations had impossible problems, they called Marcus. When governments needed solutions that didn't exist yet, they called Marcus. When entire industries needed to be reimagined, they called Marcus. This morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Bennett Dynamics completed the largest acquisition in aviation history. $2.8 billion transferred electronically to purchase controlling interest in SkyTech Airlines through their parent company Meridian Holdings. The deal closed while most of America was still asleep. The ink dried on contracts that made Marcus Bennett the owner of the 7th largest airline in the United States. But Marcus Bennett doesn't look like the owner of an airline. He looks like exactly what he wants to look like, a regular man taking his wife on their anniversary trip. The hoodie he's wearing cost $800, hand-stitched in Italy from the finest cashmere. But to untrained eyes, it looks like something from Target. His jeans are custom-tailored by the same firm that dresses European royalty. But they look like regular denim. His sneakers are limited edition, designed specifically for him by a luxury house that makes only 12 pairs per year. But they look like gym shoes. This is intentional. Marcus learned long ago that people reveal their true character when they think you have no power. Today, he wants to see the true character of the airline he just bought. He wants to experience SkyTech Airlines exactly like any other passenger would. He wants to know if his $2.8 billion investment purchased a company or just an expensive collection of prejudices with wings. Sophia Bennett understands her husband's methods. She's been his partner through every victory and setback for 25 years. She met Marcus when he was a broke medical student eating ramen for the 4th night in a row, studying by candlelight because the electricity had been shut off. She fell in love with his ambition, his integrity, and his unshakable belief that excellence could overcome any obstacle. Sophia built her own empire alongside Marcus's. Bennett Foundation, a nonprofit that provides educational opportunities for underprivileged children, operates in 47 states. She's personally mentored over 300 young people through college. 12 of them now work as doctors. 8 became engineers. 15 started their own companies. But today, Sophia isn't the CEO of a national foundation. Today, she's just a wife celebrating 25 years of marriage with the man she loves. They've planned this anniversary trip for 2 years. London first, then Paris, then Rome. 3 weeks of luxury they've never allowed themselves. Marcus works 16-hour days. Sophia travels constantly for the foundation. This trip represents the first time in a decade they'll be completely disconnected from work, completely focused on each other. The first-class tickets cost $40,000. Marcus didn't blink when he clicked purchase. After 25 years of sacrifice, of proving themselves in rooms where they were the only black faces of building companies while dealing with constant microaggressions and outright discrimination, $40,000 for 3 weeks of peace seems like a bargain. But as they stand at Gate B47, watching Carmen Rodriguez's eyes calculate their worth based on their appearance, Marcus realizes something. His $2.8 billion investment isn't going to be about fixing an airline's balance sheets or upgrading their fleet. It's going to be about fixing something much more complex and much more expensive: the human heart's capacity for prejudice. The test begins now, and everyone in this gate area is about to find out whether they pass or fail. Carmen Rodriguez has seen this before. In 15 years behind airline counters, she's developed what she considers a sixth sense for trouble. Young black men trying to use stolen credit cards, Hispanic families with suspicious documentation, Asian passengers whose names don't match their faces. She's been trained officially and unofficially to spot the signs. Standing in front of her, Marcus Bennett triggers every alarm bell Carmen has learned to trust. Black man, casual clothes, claiming first-class seats, no visible wealth markers. The math seems obvious to her scammer. "Let me check the computer again," Carmen says, fingers dancing across her keyboard. The screen shows exactly what it showed before Dr. Marcus Bennett and Dr. Sophia Bennett seats 2A and 2B first class confirmed and paid in full. But Carmen has been taught that computers can be wrong. People lie. Credit cards get stolen. The system gets gamed. "Sir, there's a discrepancy here," she announces loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "I'm showing your reservation, but the payment method is flagged for verification." Marcus reaches into his wallet and produces his credit card. Not a regular credit card. A black titanium card so exclusive that fewer than 5,000 exist worldwide. The kind of card that requires a personal invitation from the bank's board of directors. The kind of card that has no spending limit because the people who carry it don't have spending limits. Carmen takes the card between 2 fingers like it might contaminate her. She examines it under the desk light, looking for signs of tampering. The card is heavier than normal cards made from actual titanium, with Marcus's name laser-etched in platinum lettering. His account number is only 5 digits long because he was among the first 50 people in the world to receive this particular card. But Carmen doesn't recognize any of this. To her, it looks suspicious precisely because it looks different. This card looks... She pauses, searching for the right word, unusual. "I'll need to verify it with our security team before I can process this transaction." Bradley Whitmore watches the exchange with growing excitement. He's pulled out his phone and is now filming the interaction, providing commentary like a nature documentary narrator observing predators in action. "Folks, this is Bradley Whitmore, and we're witnessing something incredible here at JFK Airport. 2 people are literally trying to scam their way into first class right in front of everyone. Watch this gate agent shut it down. This is beautiful." Marcus remains completely still. His breathing is controlled, measured. Sophia recognizes the signs. Her husband is entering what she privately calls surgical mode, the state of absolute focus he adopts when performing 18-hour brain surgeries. Nothing breaks his concentration. Nothing rattles his composure. Every move is calculated, deliberate, precise. The card is legitimate. Marcus says, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being believed. "I'm Dr. Marcus Bennett. These are our seats. We're traveling for our anniversary." Carmen looks at the computer screen again. The reservation is there. The payment went through. Every detail checks out. But her training, both official and unofficial, tells her to trust her instincts over the computer. And her instincts scream fraud. Dr. Bradley laughs from behind his phone camera. "Right, and I'm the Pope." Dude, just give it up. You got caught. Security's coming anyway. Security isn't coming yet, but Carmen likes the sound of that. She presses the button under her desk that sends a silent alert to airport security. Protocol for suspicious passengers requiring additional screening. Sir Carmen addresses Marcus again. I'm going to need you to step aside while we verify your documentation. This could take a few minutes. Other passengers are beginning to stare. An elderly white couple, Robert and Mary Clark, whisper quietly to each other. A young Latina college student, Jessica Gonzalez, discreetly opens her phone's camera app. A black businessman named David Thompson recognizes the dynamic unfolding and shakes his head in familiar frustration. Marcus doesn't step aside. I'll wait here, he says calmly. These are our seats. Our boarding passes are valid. Our payment is confirmed. We're not moving. Bradley steps closer, his camera phone capturing everything. Oh, this is getting good. He's refusing to cooperate with airline security. That's a federal offense, right? Sophia speaks for the first time since the confrontation began. Her voice is quiet but clear. We're not refusing to cooperate. We're simply standing where paying passengers are supposed to stand. Carmen feels the situation slipping from her control. She's dealt with credit card fraud before. She's dealt with angry passengers before. But she's never dealt with someone who remains this calm while being accused of theft. Most scammers get nervous when challenged. They make mistakes. They reveal themselves through body language or verbal slips. Marcus Bennett is doing none of these things. He's standing there like he owns the place, which, unknown to Carmen, he literally does. Carmen's radio crackles to life. Rodriguez, this is Vega. I'm heading to your gate. What's the situation? Roberto Vega, ground operations supervisor, has been with SkyTech Airlines for 12 years. He's seen every scam, handled every crisis, dealt with every type of difficult passenger. His record is spotless, 0 successful frauds on his watch, 97% customer satisfaction rating. 3 company excellence awards. Roberto approaches Gate B47 with the confidence of a man who has never encountered a problem he couldn't solve. He's 5'8", built like a boxer with the kind of mustache that suggests he takes his authority seriously. His uniform is pressed to military precision. His badge reflects light like a mirror. What do we have here? Carmen Roberto asks, but his eyes are already assessing the situation. Black couple, expensive claim, casual appearance, defensive posture. To Roberto, the pattern is familiar and obvious. Suspected credit card fraud, Carmen explains. They're claiming first-class seats, but something feels off. The card looks fake, and they don't. She pauses, searching for diplomatic language. They don't fit the profile. Roberto nods as if Carmen has confirmed his own assessment. Folks, he addresses Marcus and Sophia directly. I'm Roberto Vega, ground operations supervisor. I'm going to need you to step aside while we verify your documentation. Marcus's response is immediate and measured. No. The single word hangs in the air like a challenge. Roberto blinks twice, certain he misheard. Excuse me, I said no. Marcus repeats. We have valid tickets. We have confirmed seats. We're not moving. Roberto has never had anyone refuse a direct order from a supervisor. In 12 years of airline operations, passengers might complain, they might argue, but they always comply with supervisor instructions. Always. Sir, you don't seem to understand. This is a security issue. I'm authorized to have you removed from the gate area if you don't cooperate with our verification process. Bradley, still filming, whispers excitedly into his phone. Oh my God, guys, this is escalating fast. The supervisor just threatened to have them arrested. This is better than Netflix. Marcus reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out his phone. Roberto tenses his hand, instinctively moving toward his radio. But Marcus isn't reaching for a weapon. He's opening his email app, scrolling to a message he received at 6:47 this morning. Mr. Vega, Marcus says, holding up his phone screen. Would you like to see the confirmation email I received this morning regarding the acquisition of SkyTech Airlines by Bennett Dynamics? Roberto squints at the phone screen. He sees corporate letterhead. He doesn't recognize legal language he doesn't understand, and numbers with so many zeros that they look like typos. Sir, I don't know what kind of documents you're showing me, but they don't change our security protocols. I'm implementing Code Yellow verification for your group. Code Yellow. Enhanced screening. The kind of random additional security that somehow always seems to target the same demographic patterns. Roberto keys his radio. Security to gate B47. Code Yellow verification required for 2 passengers. Adult male and female possible fraudulent documentation. Marcus puts his phone away. His voice remains calm, but something shifts in his tone. Something that makes Sophia glance at him nervously. Mr. Vega, in approximately 11 minutes, you're going to receive a phone call from your CEO. That call is going to change your life in ways you can't imagine right now. Roberto laughs. Right, buddy. And I'm going to receive a call from the president too, I bet. No, Marcus says quietly. Patricia Hayes doesn't typically involve the president in personnel decisions. Roberto's laugh catches in his throat. Patricia Hayes is the CEO of SkyTech Airlines. Her name isn't public knowledge among ground staff. It's not something a random passenger would know unless... But Roberto shakes off the doubt. Coincidence? Lucky guess. Scammers do their research. Security's on the way, Roberto announces to the growing crowd of onlookers. This situation will be resolved shortly. Behind them, more passengers are taking notice. The quiet conversation between Marcus and the airline employees has grown into a full confrontation. Phones are emerging from pockets and purses. Social media apps are opening. The modern age of instant documentation is beginning to focus its attention on Gate B47. Marcus checks his watch. 10 minutes and 30 seconds until the phone call that will change everything. Security Officer William Brooks approaches Gate B47 with the measured stride of a man who has broken up more airport disputes than he can count. 28 years in law enforcement, 15 years in airport security, 0 tolerance for troublemakers. He's 6'2", broad-shouldered, with the kind of gray mustache that suggests he's seen everything and hasn't been impressed by any of it. Brooks sizes up the situation immediately. Airline employees clustered around gate desk looking frustrated. Well-dressed white man filming with his phone looking excited. Black couple standing calmly looking defiant. The dynamic is familiar to Brooks. He's handled dozens of similar situations. I'm Officer Brooks, Airport Security. He announces, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. I understand we have a documentation issue here. Roberto quickly briefs Brooks on the situation, speaking in the coded language that security personnel understand instinctively. Suspected fraud, unusual card passengers refusing to cooperate with verification procedures. Brooks nods his hand, resting casually on the handcuffs attached to his belt. Folks, I'm going to need to see some identification from both of you. Slowly, please. Marcus and Sophia produce their driver's licenses, passports, and credit cards without resistance. Brooks examines each document, carefully looking for signs of tampering or forgery. The IDs are legitimate, high-quality official current, but Brooks has been trained to trust airline employee assessments over documentation. Documents can be forged. Employee instincts developed through years of experience are usually reliable. Sir, I'm going to need you to empty your pockets and place your hands against the wall, Brooks instructs Marcus. The request hangs in the air like a slap across the face. Sophia's breath catches. Other passengers begin to murmur among themselves. This is no longer a simple verification. This is a public pat-down of a man whose only crime is trying to board an airplane while black. Marcus complies without protest. He empties his pockets methodically, wallet, phone, car keys, a small leather notebook, a pen. Each item is placed on the gate desk, while Brooks runs his hands along Marcus's arms, torso, and legs. Bradley captures every moment on his phone, providing running commentary. Security is searching him now. This is what happens when you try to scam airlines, folks. Justice in action. The pat-down reveals nothing suspicious because there is nothing suspicious to find. Marcus is exactly what he claims to be, a paying passenger trying to board an airplane. But Brooks has learned to trust the process over the results. If airline employees suspect fraud, there's usually fraud, even if it's not immediately obvious. Ma'am Brooks turns to Sophia. I'm going to need you to open your purse and remove all contents for inspection. Sophia's hands shake slightly as she empties her purse. Lipstick, phone charger, reading glasses, tissues, breath mints, a small bottle of hand sanitizer. The mundane contents of a woman preparing for a long flight. Nothing suspicious, nothing illegal, nothing that justifies the public humiliation she's experiencing. Brooks examines each item as if it might contain hidden contraband. Other passengers watch in uncomfortable silence. Some shake their heads in disapproval. Others look away, unwilling to witness the degradation, but also unwilling to intervene. Jessica Gonzalez, the college student, has been recording discreetly for several minutes. Her Instagram story is gaining viewers in real time as word spreads about the confrontation at JFK. The hashtag GateB47 begins appearing in comments. David Thompson, the black businessman, recognizes the humiliation ritual unfolding in front of him. He's experienced variations of this same treatment at airports, hotels, restaurants, and retail stores across the country. The protocol is always the same. Assume guilt, demand proof of innocence, treat dignity as a privilege that must be earned rather than a right to be respected. This is wrong, David says loudly enough for everyone to hear. These people have done nothing but try to board a plane they paid for. Brooks turns his attention to David. Sir, I'm going to need you to step back. This doesn't involve you. It involves all of us, David replies, but he doesn't step back. We're all watching innocent people get humiliated for no reason. The crowd of onlookers has grown larger. Gate B47 is becoming a focal point of attention throughout this section of JFK Airport. Conversations stop as people crane their necks to see what's happening. Some passengers miss their own boarding announcements because they're transfixed by the drama unfolding. Marcus endures the search with the same calm he brings to surgical procedures. His breathing remains controlled. His expression stays neutral. But Sophia can see the storm building behind his eyes. She's seen this look twice before in their 25 years together. Both times, institutions learned expensive lessons about underestimating her husband. Officer Brooks Marcus says quietly, "You're making a mistake that's going to cost people their jobs." Brooks pauses in his inspection of Sophia's belongings. "Is that a threat, sir?" "It's a fact," Marcus replies. "The only question is whether you want to be included in the consequences or not." Brooks considers this for a moment. In 28 years of law enforcement, he's learned to recognize when someone is bluffing and when someone is stating facts. Marcus Bennett doesn't sound like he's bluffing, but Brooks also knows that backing down from a confrontation, especially a public one, sets a dangerous precedent. If he appears weak or uncertain, other passengers might challenge his authority in the future. "Sir, I advise you to cooperate fully and avoid making any statements that could be construed as threatening airline personnel." Marcus checks his watch. 7 minutes and 15 seconds until the phone call that will end this humiliation and begin the reckoning. Carmen's computer screen displays information that contradicts everything her instincts are telling her. Dr. Marcus Bennett and Dr. Sophia Bennett, seats 2A and 2B, first class, confirmed and paid in full. The reservation was made 3 weeks ago using a credit card that cleared immediately. No fraud alerts, no red flags, no errors. But Carmen has learned to trust her gut over computer screens. Computers can be hacked. Things can be manipulated. Credit cards can be stolen. Her gut, trained through 15 years of customer interactions, tells her that something is wrong with this picture. Roberto stands behind Carmen, watching over her shoulder as she navigates through the reservation information. He sees the same information Carmen sees, but he also sees what Carmen sees. Two black passengers in casual clothes claiming expensive seats they probably can't afford. Check for duplicate bookings, Roberto suggests. Sometimes scammers book multiple reservations hoping one will slip through. Carmen searches the records for any other reservations under the Bennett name. Nothing. She searches for credit card numbers that match Marcus's account. Nothing. She searches for suspicious booking patterns from the same IP address. Nothing. Every search confirms what the original screen showed: legitimate passengers with legitimate tickets purchased through legitimate means. But Roberto has another idea. Check their frequent flyer status. First-time passengers don't usually book first class. Carmen pulls up the frequent flyer database. Marcus Bennett has no prior history with SkyTech Airlines. No accumulated miles. No previous flights. No status level beyond basic passenger. There it is, Roberto says triumphantly. First-time passenger claiming first-class seats. That's the red flag right there. Bradley, still filming from nearby, overhears Roberto's announcement. Did you hear that, folks? They've never even flown with this airline before, but they're trying to claim first-class seats. This scam just fell apart. Carmen feels vindicated. Her instincts were correct. While there's no technical fraud in the information, there's something unnatural about first-time passengers purchasing the most expensive seats available. Normal people build up to first class gradually. They start with economy, maybe upgrade to business class. Eventually, then finally splurge on first class for special occasions. They don't jump straight to the top. I'm implementing a seating reassignment, Carmen announces. For security reasons, we're moving you to available seats in the main cabin while we complete our verification process. Marcus's response is immediate and non-negotiable. You're not moving us anywhere. Carmen's fingers dance across her keyboard, pulling up the seating chart for Flight 447. The plane is fully booked, but she notices 2 middle seats available in row 24, deep in economy class. Perfect solution: move the suspicious passengers to less desirable seats while giving their first-class seats to Bradley, whose Diamond Elite Platinum status clearly qualifies him for an upgrade. Sir, I'm not asking for your permission, Carmen explains. For the safety and security of all passengers, I'm reassigning your seats to 24D and 24E. These are the only available seats on this flight. Roberto steps forward to support Carmen's decision. Folks, this is how the process works. We verify your documentation while you're seated in available accommodations. Once verification is complete, we'll discuss other options. Other options. Both Carmen and Roberto know there won't be other options. Once passengers are settled in economy seats, they stay there. The first-class seats will go to Bradley, who has legitimate status and legitimate wealth markers. Problem solved. Marcus doesn't move toward the new seats. He doesn't even look at the boarding passes Carmen has printed for 24D and 24E. Instead, he pulls out his phone and sends a single text message to a number listed in his contacts as emergency protocol. The message reads, "Activate Phase 2. Full disclosure authorized." Sophia sees her husband send the text. She knows what it means. 25 years of marriage have taught her to recognize the moments when Marcus transitions from trying to solve problems diplomatically to solving them definitively. The text message marks the end of his patience and the beginning of consequences for everyone who participated in this humiliation. Baby Sophia whispers, "Are you sure Marcus looks at his wife, the woman who stood by him through medical school, poverty, through residency, exhaustion, through the years of building their empire from nothing? They could have treated us with basic human dignity. They chose not to. Now they face the results of that choice." Carmen finishes printing the new boarding passes and slides them across the gate desk. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, these are your seats for Flight 447. Please proceed to the boarding area. Marcus picks up the boarding passes and, without looking at them, tears them in half. The pieces flutter to the ground like confetti at a funeral. We're sitting in 2A and 2B, Marcus says quietly. The seats we paid for. The seats we reserved. The seats that belong to us. Bradley laughs from behind his camera. Dude, you just destroyed your boarding passes. Security arrests this man for destroying airline property. Officer Brooks steps forward, but something in Marcus's demeanor makes him hesitate. There's a stillness about this man that Brooks recognizes from his law enforcement days. It's the calm of someone who knows exactly what they're doing and exactly what's about to happen. Sir Brooks says carefully, I strongly advise you to accept the airline's accommodation and board the aircraft peacefully. Marcus checks his watch. 4 minutes and 20 seconds until the phone call that will change everything. Officer Brooks. Marcus says in 4 minutes you're going to wish you'd chosen differently. Everyone here is going to wish they'd chosen differently. But the choices are being made right now, and they can't be unmade. Brooks feels something shift in the atmosphere around Gate B47. The crowd of onlookers has grown larger and quieter. Phones are pointed in their direction from multiple angles. The lighting seems brighter, the air seems thinner, and the consequences of whatever happens next seem heavier than they should for a simple airline dispute. But Brooks is committed to the path he's on. Backing down now would look like weakness. And in his experience, weakness invites chaos. Sir, I'm placing you under temporary detention while we sort this out. Please place your hands behind your back. Marcus doesn't resist as Brooks reaches for his handcuffs. He looks directly into Bradley's camera phone and speaks with the clarity of someone delivering a final statement. My name is Dr. Marcus Bennett. I'm the owner of SkyTech Airlines as of 6:00 a.m. this morning. In 3 minutes and 45 seconds, everyone who participated in this humiliation will be unemployed. Bradley Whitmore will be banned from all airlines I own or partner with. And this footage will become a training video on how prejudice destroys careers. The handcuffs click into place just as Roberto's radio begins to ring with an incoming call from corporate headquarters. Jessica Gonzalez has been live streaming on Instagram for the past 12 minutes, and her viewer count has exploded from her usual 15 friends to over 8,000 strangers. The comments section scrolls too fast to read, filled with outrage, disbelief, and demands for justice. Guys, this is insane, Jessica whispers into her phone, trying to keep her voice low while capturing the drama unfolding at Gate B47. I'm watching a black couple get arrested literally for trying to use their first-class airplane tickets. This is happening right now at JFK Airport. Her phone vibrates constantly with notifications. Screenshots of her live stream are being shared across Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. The hashtag GateB47 is gaining momentum as viewers share the stream with their own followers. David Thompson has pulled out his phone and opened LinkedIn, where his professional network includes executives from major corporations across the country. He begins typing a post that he knows will reach thousands of business leaders within hours. I'm currently watching airline employees at JFK Airport humiliate and arrest a black couple whose only crime was trying to board a flight they paid for. This is happening in 2024 in public while being filmed by multiple witnesses. The couple has valid tickets, valid IDs, and valid payment methods. They're being treated like criminals because they don't look like first-class passengers. This is corporate discrimination in real time. David's post goes live with the location tag JFK International Airport and includes the hashtags corporate accountability traveling while black justice needed. Within minutes, his post receives dozens of likes and comments from fellow professionals expressing shock and outrage. An elderly white woman named Mary Clark has been watching the confrontation with growing discomfort. Her husband, Robert, keeps whispering that they should mind their own business. But Mary can't shake the feeling that she's witnessing something that will haunt her if she doesn't speak up. Mary opens her Facebook app and begins recording a video post. Hi everyone, it's Mary. I'm at the airport waiting for my flight and I'm watching something it's just wrong. There's a black couple here who bought first-class tickets for their anniversary trip and the airline employees are treating them like they're criminals. They're getting searched and arrested right in front of everyone and I can't just stand here and pretend this is normal. Mary's post reaches her Facebook community of retired teachers, church members, and neighborhood friends. These aren't activists or social media influencers. These are ordinary people in suburban communities who rarely engage with controversial content. But Mary's genuine distress and eyewitness account resonates with her followers in ways that news articles or activist posts might not. Lisa Park, a 28-year-old marketing professional, has been discreetly filming with her phone while pretending to scroll through emails. She opens TikTok and begins uploading short video clips with captions that provide context for viewers just joining the story. Part 1. Black couple tries to board first-class flight they paid for. Part 2. Gate agents accuse them of credit card fraud with no evidence. Part 3. Security called for suspicious passengers, aka traveling while black. Part 4. Man gets handcuffed for refusing to give up seats he bought. Each clip receives thousands of views within minutes. TikTok's algorithm recognizes the engagement patterns and begins pushing Lisa's videos to users who have shown interest in social justice content. The platform's For You page becomes a distribution network for real-time documentation of discrimination. Bradley Whitmore, oblivious to the digital firestorm building around him, continues providing commentary for his own social media followers. His Instagram story shows Marcus being handcuffed while Bradley's voiceover celebrates the justice being served. And that's how you handle airline scammers, folks. Security doesn't play games. Try to fraud your way into first class, get arrested. Beautiful karma in action. But Bradley's followers aren't responding with the approval he expected. The comments on his posts are increasingly critical, pointing out that the couple appeared to have legitimate documentation and that Bradley's celebration of their humiliation reveals more about his character than theirs. Someone in Bradley's comment section writes, "Bro, you're literally filming yourself being racist. This is going to follow you forever." Another comment, "Delete this before it ruins your life. That couple did nothing wrong." Bradley dismisses the negative comments as trolling from social justice warriors who don't understand real-world security procedures. He's confident that he's documented a successful fraud prevention in action, and he plans to use the footage as content for his upcoming podcast about entitled people getting reality checks. Bradley has no idea that Marcus Bennett's reality check is about to arrive for everyone involved. The digital ecosystem responds to authentic outrage with the speed of lightning and the power of storms. Within 30 minutes of Jessica's first Instagram post, the story has spread across multiple platforms, accumulated hundreds of thousands of views, and attracted the attention of major social media influencers who specialize in exposing injustice. Sean Williams, a civil rights activist with 2.3 million Twitter followers, retweets David Thompson's LinkedIn post with his own commentary. "This is why we can't have nice things." In 2024, black professionals still can't fly first class without being treated like criminals. Watch this thread for updates on what appears to be the most documented case of airline discrimination in history. Sean's tweet includes screenshots from Jessica's live stream and links to the various videos being shared across platforms. His followers immediately begin engaging, retweeting, and adding their own experiences of discrimination while traveling. The hashtag #TravelingWhileBlack begins trending nationally as people share their own stories of being profiled, searched, questioned, and humiliated by airline employees who made assumptions based on appearance rather than evidence. Maya Patel, a lifestyle influencer with 1.8 million TikTok followers, creates a reaction video to Lisa Park's clips. Maya's emotional response to watching the discrimination unfold in real time resonates with her young, diverse audience. "I'm literally crying watching this," Maya says in her video. This couple is celebrating their anniversary. They paid for first-class seats. They have all the right documentation, and they're getting arrested because they don't look rich enough for the seats they bought. How is this legal? How is this happening in 2024? Maya's reaction video receives over 400,000 views in its first hour and generates thousands of comments from viewers expressing similar outrage. The algorithm pushes her content to users interested in social justice travel and current events, amplifying the story beyond its original audience. Local news outlets begin monitoring the social media activity around Gate B47. Assignment editors recognize the story's potential compelling visuals, clear injustice, extensive documentation, and growing public outrage. News trucks are dispatched to JFK Airport within 45 minutes of the first posts going live. Channel 7, Eyewitness News, arrives first, followed quickly by NY1 Fox 5 and News 12. Camera crews set up outside the terminal while reporters begin reaching out to witnesses and trying to gather additional context about the situation. Jessica continues live streaming but notices her viewer count approaching 15,000 concurrent viewers. Comments pour in from around the world as the story gains international attention. Viewers from London, Paris, Tokyo, and Sydney express shock at watching American airline discrimination happen in real time. The corporate communications team at SkyTech Airlines begins receiving alerts about the social media activity mentioning their brand. Marketing manager Sarah Kim calls her supervisor in panic. "We have a massive PR crisis developing at JFK. Videos of our employees arresting black passengers are going viral across every platform. The hashtag SkyTech Airlines is trending and it's all negative." SkyTech's crisis management team assembles an emergency response within an hour of the first posts. They begin drafting statements, reaching out to influencers, and coordinating with airport security to understand the full scope of the situation. But the damage is already spreading faster than corporate communications can contain it. Boycott campaigns begin organizing in the comment sections of viral posts. Competitors' airlines start gaining followers as users publicly announce their intention to never fly SkyTech again. Roberto Vega's radio call from corporate headquarters comes through clearly despite the growing crowd noise around Gate B47. The voice on the other end belongs to Patricia Hayes, CEO of SkyTech Airlines, and she sounds like someone trying to prevent a building from collapsing. "Roberto, I need you to listen very carefully. Do not say another word to the passengers in question. Do not touch them. Do not move them. Do not process any additional paperwork related to them. Step away from the situation immediately and wait for further instructions." Roberto stares at the radio in confusion. "Ma'am, I don't understand. We have a code yellow situation here. Suspected fraud passengers refusing to comply with security protocols. Everything is being handled according to company policy." Patricia's voice becomes sharper, more urgent. "Roberto, the passengers you're dealing with. One of them owns our airline. As of this morning, Dr. Marcus Bennett is our new majority shareholder. Every action you've taken in the last 30 minutes has been captured on video and is currently being shared across social media platforms. I need you to step away immediately." The radio falls silent except for static. Roberto stares at the device like it's speaking a foreign language. Owner majority shareholder. The man in handcuffs owns SkyTech Airlines. Roberto looks across the gate area at Marcus, who is standing calmly despite being restrained. Watching Roberto with an expression that might be patience or might be pity. Marcus doesn't look angry. He looks like a surgeon explaining a terminal diagnosis to a family member who refused to listen to earlier warnings. Carmen approaches Roberto, sensing that something significant has just happened. What did corporate say? Roberto can't find words. His mouth opens and closes like a fish pulled from water. 15 years of airline operations have never prepared him for a situation where the passenger he's been humiliating turns out to own the company he works for. Officer Brooks notices Roberto's distress and approaches the cluster of airline employees. "Is there a problem with the detention?" "We need to release him," Roberto says quietly, barely audible above the crowd noise. "Release him now. Remove the handcuffs. Step back." Brooks frowns. "I don't understand. You called for code yellow. I'm following your security protocol." "The protocol has changed," Roberto says louder now. "Release the passenger immediately." But it's too late to quietly undo what's been done. The videos are live across platforms. The news crews are en route. The social media momentum is building toward a crescendo that will reshape more than just careers. It will reshape policies, procedures, and corporate cultures across multiple industries. Marcus watches the panic spread among the airline employees with the detached interest of a scientist observing a chemical reaction. Every element is behaving exactly as predicted. Every variable is falling into place according to calculations made long before he stepped foot in this airport. The comment sections of viral posts become confessional booths for travelers who have experienced similar treatment but never had a platform to share their stories. The raw testimony pours in from around the globe. "This happened to me last year on Delta. Had a confirmed first-class seat, got questioned for 20 minutes about how I could afford it. I'm a software engineer with a Stanford MBA, but I was wearing a hoodie, so they assumed I was scamming. Never flew Delta again. United did this to my husband and me on our honeymoon. We paid for business class to celebrate, got accused of using stolen credit cards because we looked too young to afford expensive seats. Spent our wedding night in airport security instead of Paris. I'm a cardiologist. Last month, American Airlines gate agents demanded to see my medical license before allowing me to sit in the emergency exit row. Said I didn't look like a doctor. The white college student next to me wasn't asked for any identification. This is exactly what happened to my parents in 2019, saved for years for a first-class anniversary trip to Hawaii. Gate agent said their credit card looked suspicious and moved them to middle seats in economy. They were too embarrassed to fight it. Watching this couple stand their ground makes me proud and heartbroken at the same time. The testimonials create a mosaic of institutional discrimination that extends far beyond a single airline or single incident. Patterns emerge in the stories, professionals questioned about their qualifications. Families humiliated during special occasions, individuals forced to prove their worth based on assumptions about their appearance. News outlets begin reaching out to some of the people sharing their experiences, recognizing that the Gate B-47 incident represents the tip of an iceberg that has been largely invisible to mainstream media coverage. CNN producer Michelle Roberts identifies the story's broader significance and begins organizing a segment about the hidden pattern of airline discrimination that social media is finally exposing. Fox Business reporter James Liu reaches out to airline industry analysts to understand the potential financial impact of the viral backlash against SkyTech Airlines. MSNBC host Alex Martinez schedules an emergency segment featuring civil rights attorneys who can provide legal context for the discrimination patterns being documented in real time. International media outlets pick up the story as evidence of ongoing racial tensions in American corporate culture. BBC News, Deutsche Welle, and Al Jazeera begin preparing reports that will broadcast the Gate B-47 incident to global audiences. The story has transcended its origins as a simple airline dispute. It has become a referendum on corporate America's treatment of minority customers, the power of social media to expose injustice, and the ability of individuals to hold large institutions accountable for discriminatory practices. But none of the media coverage, social media analysis, or public commentary changes the fundamental dynamic at Gate B-47. Marcus Bennett still stands in handcuffs, waiting for the moment when everyone who humiliated him learns the true cost of their assumptions. Marcus Bennett stands perfectly still with his hands cuffed behind his back, exhibiting the same calm he brings to 8-hour neurosurgeries. Around him, chaos builds like storm clouds gathering before a hurricane. Social media notifications ping constantly from dozens of phones. News camera crews unpack equipment outside the terminal. Airport security supervisors huddle in urgent conversations. But Marcus remains an island of tranquility in the center of the storm he has orchestrated. Sophia approaches Officer Brooks with the kind of controlled urgency that suggests long experience with crisis management. "Officer, I'm going to ask you one more time to remove those handcuffs from my husband. You're making a mistake that's going to define the rest of your career." Brooks hesitates. Something about the woman's tone suggests she's not making emotional pleas or empty threats. She's stating facts with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen. "Ma'am, your husband was detained for refusing to comply with airline security protocols. The handcuffs stay on until we sort this out." Marcus speaks for the first time since being restrained, his voice carrying across the gate area with surgical precision. "Officer Brooks, in 60 seconds you're going to receive information that will give you nightmares for the rest of your career. You have 1 minute to make the right decision." Brooks checks his watch instinctively, though he's not sure why. Something about Marcus's certainty makes the countdown feel real, tangible, inevitable. Roberto clutches his radio, waiting for additional instructions from corporate headquarters. His hands shake slightly as he realizes that his career might be ending in real-time broadcast live across social media platforms to hundreds of thousands of viewers. Carmen stares at her computer screen, refreshing Marcus's reservation details obsessively. The information hasn't changed: legitimate passenger, legitimate payment, legitimate documentation. But her training, her instincts, and her supervisors all insisted that something was wrong. Now she's beginning to understand that the something wrong wasn't with Marcus, it was with her. Bradley continues filming, but his commentary has become less confident, more uncertain. The comments on his live stream have turned overwhelmingly negative. Viewers are asking questions he can't answer. Why did you celebrate a man getting arrested for using his airplane ticket? What kind of person films someone else's humiliation for entertainment? Do you realize you've documented yourself participating in discrimination? Bradley's follower count begins dropping in real time as viewers unfollow his accounts in disgust. Brand partnerships that took him years to build evaporate as companies distance themselves from the content he's created. But Bradley doesn't understand the magnitude of what's happening. He's focused on defending his position rather than questioning whether his position was defensible in the first place. Marcus checks his watch with a slight movement of his wrist. 30 seconds until the revelation that will change everything. Lisa Park continues live streaming but adds commentary that captures the building tension. "Guys, something is about to happen. I don't know what, but this man has been calm through everything. He's not scared. He's not angry. He's just waiting. Like he knows something nobody else knows." The crowd around Gate B47 has grown to over 100 people. Passengers from other flights have abandoned their own boarding areas to witness whatever is unfolding. The atmosphere feels electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. Marcus looks directly into Lisa's camera and speaks with the authority of someone who has just reached the end of his patience. "Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to learn why treating people with dignity isn't just morally right, it's economically essential." Roberto's radio explodes with urgent chatter as multiple supervisors try to reach him simultaneously. The device screeches with feedback as competing signals clash in the airways. He adjusts the frequency and hears the voice of Operations Director James Walsh, speaking with the kind of controlled panic that suggests career-ending emergencies. "Roberto, I need you to confirm the current status of passenger Marcus Bennett immediately. Is he detained? Has he been arrested? What is the exact situation at Gate B47? Roberto responds while watching Marcus stand calmly in handcuffs 20 feet away. Sir Passenger Bennett is currently in security custody for Code Yellow verification, suspected fraudulent documentation, and refusal to comply with seating reassignment. The radio goes silent for nearly 10 seconds. When James Walsh speaks again, his voice has changed. The authority is gone, replaced by something that sounds like fear. Roberto, I need you to release Passenger Bennett immediately. Remove any restraints. Apologize formally. And whatever you do, do not let him leave that gate area until our CEO arrives. Roberto stares at the radio. Sir, I don't understand. The passenger violated multiple. Roberto Walsh interrupts. The passenger you detained owns our airline. Dr. Marcus Bennett purchased controlling interest in SkyTech Airlines this morning through Bennett Dynamics. Every action you've taken has been against our company's owner. The radio slips from Roberto's hands and crashes to the floor. Around him, the noise of the busy gate area fades to white noise as the magnitude of his situation becomes clear. He spent 30 minutes humiliating, detaining, and publicly embarrassing the man who can fire every employee at SkyTech Airlines with a single phone call. Carmen overhears the radio conversation and feels her legs give out. She grabs the edge of the gate desk for support as 15 years of airline experience crystallize into a single career-ending realization. She profiled, discriminated against, and falsely accused the person who now has the power to end her livelihood. Officer Brooks notices the airline employee's distress and approaches Roberto. What's going on? Did corporate change the protocol? Roberto can't speak. He points toward Marcus with a shaking hand, his mouth moving soundlessly as he tries to form words that can adequately explain the catastrophe unfolding around them. Carmen finds her voice first, though it cracks under the weight of what she has to say. Officer Brooks, we need to remove the handcuffs immediately. That man, he owns SkyTech Airlines. Brooks looks between Carmen's panicked expression and Marcus's calm demeanor. That's impossible. Airline owners don't fly on their own planes wearing hoodies. He does. Roberto finally manages to whisper. And we just arrested him for trying to use the first-class seat he paid for on the airline he owns. Marcus watches the realization spread across the faces of airline employees like a virus moving through a population. The transformation is almost clinical in its precision: confusion, denial, understanding, and finally terror. Officer Brooks Marcus says calmly, "You might want to remove these handcuffs before Patricia Hayes arrives." Brooks fumbles for his handcuff key, his training and experience suddenly seeming inadequate for a situation that exists outside normal protocols. "Sir, if there's been a misunderstanding..." "There's been no misunderstanding," Marcus interrupts. "Everyone here made exactly the choices they wanted to make. Now everyone gets to live with the consequences of those choices." The handcuffs click open and fall to the ground with a metallic sound that seems louder than it should. Marcus rubs his wrists but shows no signs of anger or vindictiveness. If anything, he looks sad. Sophia moves to her husband's side and takes his arm gently. "Baby, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Marcus replies. "But these people aren't going to be." Roberto approaches with the hesitant steps of a man walking toward his own execution. "Dr. Bennett, sir, I want to apologize for any confusion. If we had known who you were..." Marcus holds up a hand to stop Roberto mid-sentence. "Mr. Vega, that's exactly the problem. You treated us this way because you didn't know who I was, which means you treat other people this way when you think they don't have power to hold you accountable." The crowd of onlookers has grown silent, understanding that they're witnessing something historic. Phone cameras capture every word as Marcus delivers what amounts to a masterclass in how institutional discrimination operates and why it must be eliminated. Carmen steps forward, tears streaming down her face. "Dr. Bennett, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just following protocols. No, Marcus says firmly. You were following prejudices. There's a difference. Protocols are written down, documented, applied equally to all passengers. What you did was assume that 2 black passengers couldn't afford first-class seats despite having all the proper documentation. The gate area has become completely silent except for the sound of air conditioning and the distant hum of aircraft engines. Everyone understands that they're witnessing the aftermath of choices made based on assumptions rather than evidence. Bradley slowly lowers his phone, finally beginning to understand that his content creation has documented his own participation in something indefensible. The comments on his live stream have become a tsunami of criticism, mockery, and promises that his behavior will follow him forever. Airport Operations Manager Rachel White arrives at Gate B47, accompanied by 2 corporate executives whose expressions suggest they've just witnessed their company's stock price collapse in real time. Rachel immediately identifies Marcus and approaches with the kind of desperate deference usually reserved for emergency situations. Dr. Bennett, I'm Rachel White, Airport Operations Manager. On behalf of SkyTech Airlines, I want to personally apologize for the treatment you and Mrs. Bennett have received today. Marcus looks at Rachel with the same clinical interest he brings to examining X-rays of brain tumors. Ms. White, your employees accused us of credit card fraud, subjected us to public searches, and arrested us for attempting to use airplane seats we purchased. What's your plan to ensure this never happens to anyone else? Rachel realizes that Marcus isn't looking for apologies. He's conducting a diagnostic interview to determine whether SkyTech Airlines can be fixed or whether it needs to be completely rebuilt. Sir, we'll conduct a full investigation and retrain all personnel on proper customer service protocols. That's not good enough. Marcus interrupts. This wasn't a training failure. This was a culture failure. Your employees made assumptions based on race class and appearance despite having documentation proving they were wrong. Retraining doesn't fix prejudice, Ms. White. Accountability does. One of the corporate executives, legal counsel David Morrison, steps forward with the cautious approach of someone trying to prevent a lawsuit that could bankrupt the company. Dr. Bennett, we'd like to discuss this matter privately and work toward a resolution that satisfies all parties. Marcus smiles for the first time since the confrontation began, but it's not a warm smile. It's the expression of a chess player who has just achieved checkmate. Mr. Morrison, we're past the point of private discussions. Everything that happened here was public. The discrimination was public. The humiliation was public. The resolution will be public too. Patricia Hayes, CEO of SkyTech Airlines, arrives at Gate B47 with the harried expression of someone whose worst-case scenario planning never included alienating the company's new owner on his first day of ownership. She's accompanied by her entire crisis management team, but their presence feels inadequate for the magnitude of the disaster they're facing. Dr. Bennett Patricia begins, but Marcus raises his hand to stop her. Ms. Hayes, we'll have time to talk later. Right now, I want to address the passengers who witnessed this incident and the people watching on social media. Marcus walks to the center of the gate area, and the crowd naturally forms a circle around him. Phone cameras focus on his face as he prepares to deliver a statement that will be quoted, analyzed, and studied for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus begins, his voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet space. What you witnessed today happens to people who look like me every single day across America. The only difference is that most of those people don't have the resources to hold institutions accountable for discriminatory treatment. The crowd listens in complete silence as Marcus continues. I own SkyTech Airlines as of this morning, but I didn't identify myself because I wanted to experience the company's culture as a regular passenger. What I experienced was unconscionable, illegal, and endemic of problems that extend far beyond this airline. Marcus pauses, making eye contact with the cameras that are broadcasting his words to hundreds of thousands of viewers across social media platforms. Effective immediately, every employee who participated in discriminating against my wife and me will be terminated. But that's just the beginning. We're going to rebuild this airline from the ground up with policies that ensure dignity, respect, and equal treatment for every passenger, regardless of their appearance, race, or perceived social status. The statement ends not with applause, but with the kind of reverent silence that follows moments that change everything. Patricia Hayes approaches Marcus with termination paperwork already prepared by her legal team. The documents represent the swift surgical removal of every employee who participated in the discrimination incident. There will be no appeals process, no second chances, no opportunities for redemption. The consequences are immediate and permanent. Dr. Bennett. Patricia says, I want you to witness these terminations personally, so you know we're taking decisive action. Marcus nods, but doesn't speak. He watches with the detached professionalism of a surgeon observing necessary but unpleasant procedures. Carmen Rodriguez receives the first termination notice. Patricia reads the charges aloud so everyone present can hear the formal accounting of Carmen's actions. Racial profiling of passengers, based on appearance, falsely accusing customers of credit card fraud without evidence, implementing discriminatory seating policies and violation of company anti-discrimination guidelines. Carmen's 15-year career with SkyTech Airlines ends with the confiscation of her badge access cards and uniform accessories. Security escorts her from the gate area while passengers film her departure. Her employment record will show termination for discrimination, making her unemployable in the airline industry. I have 3 children, Carmen pleads as security leads her away. Please, I'll do anything. I'll take training, I'll transfer departments, I'll work for free. Please, don't destroy my family. Marcus watches Carmen's desperation without visible emotion. Her financial situation, her family responsibilities, and her personal circumstances became irrelevant the moment she chose to humiliate paying passengers based on their skin color. Roberto Vega receives his termination papers next. 12 years of service, 3 company excellence awards, and a spotless performance record become meaningless in the face of 30 minutes of discriminatory decision-making. Roberto Vega, Patricia announces terminated for implementing Code Yellow protocols based on racial profiling, authorizing unnecessary security detention of paying passengers, and supervisory failure to recognize and prevent discriminatory treatment. Roberto's supervisor credentials are revoked immediately. His access to airline things is terminated remotely by IT staff who received orders from corporate headquarters. His company retirement account is frozen, pending investigation into whether his discriminatory actions constitute violations of federal employment law. Roberto doesn't plead like Carmen did. He understands that his career in airline management is finished. No carrier will hire a supervisor with discrimination charges on their record. His 12 years of experience have become a liability rather than an asset. Officer William Brooks faces the most severe consequences because his actions carry potential federal civil rights violations. Airport Authority Chief of Security Michael Torres arrives with federal investigators who have been monitoring the social media coverage of the incident. Officer Brooks Chief Torres announces you're suspended without pay pending federal investigation into civil rights violations. Your airport security clearance is revoked immediately, and your actions are being reviewed by the Department of Justice for potential criminal charges. Brooks's 28 years in law enforcement end with his badge, weapon, and credentials being confiscated in front of hundreds of witnesses and thousands of social media viewers. His pension is frozen. His security clearances are revoked. His prospects for employment in any security-related field evaporate instantly. I was following airline security protocols. Brooks protests as federal investigators place him in handcuffs, the same handcuffs he used on Marcus 30 minutes earlier. I didn't know the passenger's identity. Officer Brooks responds, FBI, Special Agent Maria Santos. Civil rights violations don't depend on the victim's identity. You would have violated the same laws whether Dr. Bennett owned the airline or worked minimum wage. The symbolism of Brooks being arrested with his own handcuffs isn't lost on the social media audience documenting every moment. The video clips of his arrest receive millions of views as viewers celebrate the poetic justice of watching the discriminator experience the treatment he imposed on others. James Mitchell, the pilot, receives his termination notice from Federal Aviation Administration investigators who arrived with the FBI team. His pilot's license is suspended pending investigation into whether his knowledge of discriminatory passenger policies violates federal aviation safety regulations. Captain Mitchell, FAA Inspector Jennifer Walsh announces, "Your airline transport pilot license is suspended for failure to report discriminatory practices that compromise passenger safety and violate federal transportation laws." Mitchell's career as a commercial pilot ends instantly. 20 years of flight experience become worthless because airline discrimination policies create hostile environments that the FAA considers safety hazards. No airline will hire a pilot whose license was suspended for civil rights violations. The termination process takes less than 20 minutes, but the consequences will last for decades. 5 careers destroyed, 5 families financially devastated, 5 lives permanently altered because of 30 minutes of choices made based on prejudice rather than evidence. Bradley Whitmore stands frozen as he watches the total destruction of everyone who supported his demand for Marcus's first-class seats. The weight of his own participation in the discrimination becomes clear as federal investigators turn their attention toward him. FBI Special Agent Maria Santos approaches Bradley with the measured steps of someone who has reviewed extensive video evidence of his behavior. "Mr. Whitmore, I need to speak with you about your actions during the discrimination incident." Bradley's confidence evaporates as he realizes that filming and celebrating someone else's humiliation might have legal consequences he never considered. "I didn't do anything illegal. I just filmed what was happening." Mr. Whitmore, Agent Santos replies, "You actively encouraged airline employees to discriminate against Dr. and Mrs. Bennett based on their race. You celebrated their arrest. You used social media to mock their humiliation. These actions may constitute conspiracy to violate civil rights under federal law." Bradley's phone contains hours of video evidence of his participation in the discrimination. His social media posts document his racial bias in his own words. His live streams captured him encouraging airline employees to remove Marcus and Sophia from first-class seats they had legitimately purchased. Agent Santos continues, "You're not under arrest at this time, but your social media accounts and devices are being preserved as evidence in a federal civil rights investigation. You should retain legal counsel immediately." Bradley's father, Harrison Whitmore, arrives at JFK Airport within 2 hours of receiving a phone call from his company's crisis management team. Harrison built his technology fortune by identifying problems before they became catastrophes. But his son's behavior represents a crisis beyond any corporate damage control. Bradley Harrison says, quietly approaching his son in the gate area still crawling with federal investigators, "What have you done, Dad?" "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted good seats on the airplane. I didn't know the guy owned the airline." Harrison's expression hardens as he realizes his son still doesn't understand the magnitude of his actions. "Bradley, you celebrated watching a black man get arrested for trying to use an airplane ticket he bought. You filmed it, you posted it, you encouraged discrimination. The victim's identity was never the issue, your behavior was the issue. Harrison Whitmore's technology companies have diversity initiatives, anti-discrimination policies, and million-dollar contracts with minority-owned businesses. Bradley's public demonstration of racism threatens to destroy business relationships that took decades to build. Son, your actions have put our entire company at risk. Our clients, our partners, our employees. Everyone is questioning whether our family business reflects the values you displayed today. Bradley begins to understand that his consequences extend beyond legal investigations. His trust fund, managed by the family company, is at risk. His board positions in various Whitmore enterprises are threatened. His lifestyle, entirely dependent on his father's wealth and business relationships, hangs in the balance. Harrison makes a decision that will echo through financial markets and social circles where the Whitmore name was once respected. Bradley, you're removed from all company positions effective immediately. Your trust fund is frozen pending investigation into whether your criminal behavior violates the terms of your inheritance. Bradley's world collapses as quickly as Marcus's authority revealed itself. The wealthy young man who demanded first-class seats because of his perceived status finds himself facing federal investigations, family exile, and financial devastation. Dad, you can't cut me off. I'm your son. You're my son. Harrison agrees, but you're not someone I can trust to represent our family's values. Your behavior today will be remembered forever because it was filmed and broadcast. I won't let your racism destroy what took generations to build. Doctor, Bennett doesn't simply fire the employees who discriminated against him. He orders a comprehensive audit of SkyTech Airlines' culture, policies, and practices that reveals a pattern of institutionalized discrimination far more extensive than anyone imagined. Bennett Dynamics' investigative team, led by former FBI Director Robert Kim, begins reviewing 3 years of passenger complaints, employee records, and internal communications within hours of the Gate B-47 incident. What they discover represents one of the largest documented patterns of corporate discrimination in airline industry history. The investigation uncovers 47 separate incidents of minority passengers being questioned, searched, or removed from flights without legitimate justification. The pattern is consistent and damning. Black passengers disproportionately subjected to random additional security screening. Hispanic families repeatedly questioned about documentation authenticity. Asian passengers frequently accused of using fraudulent payment methods. Internal emails between supervisors reveal unofficial policies that directly violate federal anti-discrimination laws. Roberto Vega sent a message to gate agents instructing them to pay special attention to passengers who don't fit the profile for premium seating. Carmen Rodriguez forwarded training materials that encouraged staff to trust their instincts when passengers seem out of place in first-class cabins. The email evidence proves that discrimination wasn't the result of individual bias. It was encoded into company culture through unofficial but widespread policies that targeted customers based on race, ethnicity, and perceived social class. Legal Director Sarah Kim presents Marcus with a preliminary report that reads like an indictment of the entire airline industry, Dr. Bennett. We've identified wide-ranging patterns of discrimination that expose SkyTech Airlines to hundreds of millions of dollars in federal penalties and civil lawsuits. Marcus reviews the evidence with the same methodical attention he brings to complex medical cases. Each incident represents real people who were humiliated, degraded, and denied services they paid for because employees made assumptions about their worth based on appearance. Sarah, I want you to contact every passenger who filed discrimination complaints in the past 3 years. We're going to settle every case generously and publicly. I want other airlines to understand that discrimination is economically devastating, not just morally wrong. The investigation expands beyond SkyTech Airlines, as federal authorities recognize the broader implications of the evidence uncovered. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Chief Patricia Williams announces a federal investigation into discrimination practices across the airline industry. The evidence from SkyTech Airlines suggests that passenger discrimination may be endemic throughout commercial aviation, Williams states in a press conference. We're launching a comprehensive investigation to determine whether other carriers have similar patterns of discriminatory treatment. The announcement triggers immediate panic across airline boardrooms as companies scramble to review their own policies, procedures, and complaint records. Stock prices fluctuate as investors assess the potential legal and financial consequences of industry-wide discrimination investigations. American Airlines Delta United Southwest, and JetBlue all released statements promising cooperation with federal investigations and emphasizing their commitment to equal treatment of passengers. But the promises sound hollow after years of similar incidents being dismissed as isolated events rather than patterns requiring industry-wide reform. The Gate B-47 incident becomes the most documented airline discrimination case in history, generating coverage across every major news platform and social media network. The story combines perfect visual elements with compelling human drama, clear video evidence of injustice, a powerful reversal of fortune, and immediate consequences for perpetrators. CNN's Anderson Cooper leads the evening news with exclusive footage from the incident. Tonight, a story that exposes the reality of traveling while Black in America. What began as an anniversary trip became a viral lesson in how prejudice destroys institutions. The network assembles a panel of civil rights attorneys, airline industry experts, and social media analysts to discuss the broader implications of the incident. Legal expert Michelle Roberts explains the significance of the extensive video documentation. This case is unprecedented because every moment was captured from multiple angles. There's no dispute about what happened, no competing narratives, no ambiguity about who was at fault. Fox Business focuses on the economic consequences of the incident, tracking SkyTech Airlines' stock price as it plummets in response to the discrimination revelations. Financial analyst James Morrison predicts massive long-term costs. Dr. Bennett's acquisition of SkyTech Airlines will likely result in the most expensive discrimination settlement in aviation history. But the broader industry faces potential federal oversight that could cost billions. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow dedicates an entire segment to examining the social media documentation of the incident, showing how real-time video sharing has changed accountability for discriminatory behavior. What happened to Dr. Bennett and his wife would have been their word against the airline's word just 5 years ago. Today, discrimination can't hide because everyone has a camera and global reach. International news outlets recognize the story's significance as a window into American social tensions. BBC News interviews civil rights historians who place the incident in context with decades of transportation discrimination dating back to segregation era. Al Jazeera explores how social media has democratized the documentation of injustice in ways that traditional media never could. The story dominates social media platforms for days as users share their own experiences with airline discrimination, creating a digital repository of institutional bias that extends far beyond a single incident or airline. Hashtags like Traveling While Black Gate B-47 and Airline Accountability trend globally as the story resonates with international audiences. Tech mogul and SkyTech Airlines owner Dr. Marcus Bennett becomes a reluctant public figure as media outlets seek interviews about his plans for reforming airline culture. His measured professional responses to questions about discrimination and accountability contrast sharply with the chaotic behavior of employees who lost their jobs for treating him as a second-class citizen. In his first television interview since the incident, Marcus tells 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl, "This wasn't about me personally. This was about a culture that assumes certain people don't belong in certain spaces. Until we address those assumptions, we'll keep witnessing these incidents." The media coverage transforms a single airport confrontation into a national conversation about corporate discrimination, social media accountability, and the economic consequences of prejudice in an interconnected world where injustice can't be hidden. The viral documentation of discrimination at Gate B-47 catalyzes a massive support network for victims of similar treatment as people around the world recognize that Marcus and Sophia Bennett's experience represents a pattern they've witnessed or experienced personally. Civil rights attorney Benjamin Carter establishes a legal fund specifically for passengers who have experienced airline discrimination, inspired by the Bennett case's demonstration that institutional bias can be successfully challenged when properly documented and pursued. Dr. Bennett's case proves that airlines can be held accountable for discriminatory treatment, Carter announces at a press conference. We're establishing resources to help other passengers pursue justice when they've been profiled, humiliated, or denied services based on their race or appearance. The legal fund receives over $2 million in donations within its first week, contributed by individuals who have experienced similar discrimination or who want to support efforts to eliminate bias from commercial travel. Major corporations, including several of Marcus Bennett's technology companies, contribute substantial amounts to ensure the fund can pursue cases regardless of victims' financial resources. GoFundMe campaigns supporting Marcus and Sophia Bennett raise over $5 million, though the couple donates all contributions to scholarships for minority students pursuing careers in aviation business and civil rights law. Their decision to transform financial support into educational opportunities reflects their commitment to creating long-term change rather than seeking personal compensation. Airlines employees who witnessed discrimination but remained silent begin coming forward with internal evidence of institutionalized bias. Flight attendant Maria Gonzalez provides documentation of training materials that encouraged profiling passengers based on appearance. Gate agent Timothy Johnson submits recordings of supervisors instructing staff to pay special attention to certain demographic groups. The whistleblower testimonies provide federal investigators with insider evidence of how discrimination policies were implemented, communicated, and enforced throughout the airline industry. Former employees describe unofficial quotas for security screenings that disproportionately targeted minority passengers and pressure to upgrade white passengers while questioning black passengers' payment methods. Passenger advocacy groups coordinate boycotts of airlines with documented discrimination patterns while promoting carriers that implement transparent anti-bias policies. The economic pressure from organized consumer action forces rapid policy changes across the industry as companies realize that discrimination carries immediate financial consequences in an era of social media accountability. The American Civil Liberties Union establishes a dedicated airline discrimination reporting work that allows passengers to document incidents in real time and connects them with legal resources for pursuing complaints. The work receives over 10,000 reports within its first month, revealing the scope of discrimination that previously went unrecorded and unaddressed. Marcus Bennett's transformation from discrimination victim to airline owner inspires other successful minorities to examine how they can use their resources and influence to combat institutional bias in their own industries. The Bennett model of acquiring companies to eliminate discriminatory practices becomes a template for using economic power to advance social justice. The incident's aftermath demonstrates how viral documentation of injustice can mobilize resources, legal support, and public pressure in ways that create lasting change beyond the immediate circumstances that triggered outrage. Marcus Bennett doesn't simply reform SkyTech Airlines. He rebuilds it from the ground up as a laboratory for how commercial aviation can operate without discrimination bias or prejudice. The transformation begins with a complete rebrand that signals fundamental changes in values, policies, and culture. SkyTech Airlines becomes Unity. Airlines with a mission statement that makes equality the foundation rather than an afterthought. Every passenger, every flight, every interaction reflects our commitment to dignity, respect, and equal treatment, regardless of race, ethnicity, economic status, or appearance. The new airline's employee handbook begins with a principle that Marcus crafts personally. We hire people who see humanity before demographics, who solve problems rather than create them, and who understand that customer service means serving all customers equally. Marcus personally interviews every new hire for the first 6 months of Unity Airlines operation, ensuring that employees understand they're not just taking jobs. They're joining a movement to prove that commercial aviation can operate without the prejudices that have plagued the industry for decades. Flight attendant training includes mandatory modules on unconscious bias, de-escalation techniques, and cultural competency. Every employee learns to recognize and interrupt discriminatory behavior before it escalates into incidents like Gate B47. The training isn't theoretical. It uses real video footage from discrimination incidents across various industries to show how bias manifests and how it can be prevented. Gate agent Julia Martinez, hired during Unity Airlines' first month of operation, describes the cultural difference. At my previous airline, we were taught to be suspicious of passengers who seemed out of place. At Unity, we're taught to assume every passenger belongs here unless their behavior proves otherwise. It completely changes how you interact with people. Unity Airlines eliminates class-based boarding entirely, replacing the hierarchy of first-class business and economy with a single standard premium service for every passenger. The aircraft interiors are redesigned so that every seat offers dignity and comfort, removing the visual markers of economic segregation that often trigger discriminatory assumptions. Customer feedback things allow passengers to rate their experience immediately after each interaction with airline employees. Ratings are tied directly to employee performance evaluations and advancement opportunities, creating economic incentives for treating every passenger with respect. The technology integration goes beyond traditional airline operations to include bias detection, things that monitor customer interactions for patterns suggesting discriminatory treatment. Artificial intelligence analyzes voice patterns, word choices, and interaction lengths to identify employees who may be treating passengers differently based on demographic characteristics. Marcus explains the comprehensive approach during a staff meeting. We're not just changing policies, we're changing the fundamental assumptions that airlines make about passengers. Everything, every procedure, every interaction must reflect our commitment to equality. Within 6 months of Unity Airlines' launch, customer satisfaction ratings reach industry record levels as passengers experience commercial aviation without the anxiety, humiliation, and discrimination that had become normalized across other carriers. The airline's success proves that treating all passengers equally isn't just morally right, it's economically superior. Marcus Bennett leverages his technology expertise to create digital solutions that prevent discrimination before it occurs, rather than simply responding to incidents after they happen. The Equifly platform represents the most sophisticated bias detection thing ever implemented in commercial aviation. Equifly monitors every customer interaction through advanced natural language processing that analyzes word choice, tone response time, and interaction patterns. The thing identifies employees who consistently interact differently with passengers, based on demographic characteristics, allowing supervisors to provide corrective training before discrimination occurs. Machine learning algorithms analyze millions of passenger interactions to establish baseline patterns for respectful, efficient customer service. When employee behavior deviates from these patterns in ways that correlate with passenger race, ethnicity, or apparent economic status, the thing flags the interactions for immediate supervisor review. The technology extends beyond individual employee monitoring to track institutional patterns that might indicate business bias. Equifly analyzes seat assignment patterns, upgrade distributions, security, screening selections, and complaint resolution procedures to identify whether policies are being implemented equally across all demographic groups. Dr. Jennifer Kim, Chief Technology Officer for Unity Airlines, explains the thing's capability. Equifly doesn't just document discrimination, it predicts and prevents it. We can identify bias patterns before they impact passengers and address them through training rather than termination. The platform includes real-time passenger feedback integration that allows travelers to report concerns immediately through their mobile devices. Unlike traditional complaint things that require lengthy forms and delayed responses, Equifly enables instant escalation of potential discrimination to supervisors who can intervene while interactions are still in progress. Blockchain technology ensures that discrimination reports cannot be suppressed, deleted, or modified by airline personnel. Every complaint creates an immutable record that federal regulators can access for oversight purposes, eliminating the culture of hidden bias incidents that plagued traditional airlines. The Thing's predictive analytics identify training needs across the airline workforce, allowing Unity to proactively address bias rather than reactively respond to discrimination. Employees receive personalized development plans based on their interaction patterns, helping them improve service quality while preventing potential civil rights violations. Equifly's success attracts attention from other industries facing similar discrimination challenges. Hotels, restaurants, retail chains, and financial services companies begin implementing similar technology to monitor and prevent bias in customer interactions. Marcus open sources the core Equifly algorithms, making bias detection technology freely available to any business committed to eliminating discrimination. Technology that prevents injustice shouldn't be proprietary, he announces at a tech conference. Every company should have access to tools that help them treat people equally. The Department of Transportation begins exploring requirements for bias detection things across all commercial airlines, using Unity Airlines' success as evidence that technological solutions can effectively prevent discrimination without compromising operational efficiency. Unity Airlines' success forces competing carriers to confront their own discrimination patterns as passengers begin choosing airlines based on equality metrics rather than just price and convenience. The Unity standard becomes shorthand for customer service that treats all passengers with dignity regardless of their appearance or perceived social status. American Airlines announces a $500 million investment in anti-discrimination training and bias detection technology, acknowledging that the industry must change to retain customer confidence. CEO Michael Johnson admits, the Unity Airlines model has shown that passengers will choose carriers that treat them with respect over carriers that offer lower prices. Delta Airlines implements comprehensive policy reforms that eliminate subjective security screening procedures that disproportionately targeted minority passengers. The carrier publishes detailed statistics about passenger interactions to demonstrate transparency and accountability in their service delivery. United Airlines establishes an independent civil rights oversight committee that includes former federal judges, civil rights attorneys, and community advocates. The committee has authority to investigate discrimination complaints and recommend employee terminations for bias-related incidents. Southwest Airlines redesigns their employee training program to emphasize cultural competency and unconscious bias recognition. The carrier begins recruiting specifically from historically black colleges and universities to diversify their workforce and bring different perspectives to customer service operations. JetBlue Airways partners with civil rights businesses to develop passenger advocacy programs that provide support and legal resources for travelers who experience discrimination. The program demonstrates corporate commitment to passenger rights that extends beyond their own operations. International airlines begin implementing similar reforms as the discrimination prevention model spreads globally. British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France, and Emirates announce bias detection initiatives based on Unity Airlines' technological framework. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, establishes industry-wide discrimination prevention standards that member airlines must meet to maintain certification. The standards include mandatory bias training, transparent complaint procedures, and public reporting of discrimination incident statistics. Airport authorities implement bias detection monitoring in their own operations, ensuring that security screening, ground transportation, and retail services meet the same equality standards that reformed airlines have adopted. Discrimination prevention becomes an end-to-end passenger experience priority. Federal Aviation Administration regulations are updated to require bias prevention training for all airline personnel and mandate public reporting of discrimination complaints. Airlines that fail to meet equality standards face regulatory penalties that can include route restrictions and operating certificate suspensions. The industry transformation extends beyond aviation, as other transportation sectors implement similar reforms. Railways, bus companies, cruise lines, and rental car agencies begin adopting bias detection technology and equality training programs based on the Unity Airlines model. The legal consequences of the Gate B-47 incident extend far beyond individual terminations to establish precedents that reshape how discrimination cases are prosecuted, settled, and prevented across multiple industries. The class action settlement for SkyTech Airlines discrimination victims reaches $847 million, the largest airline discrimination judgment in history. The settlement covers 312 passengers who experienced documented bias over a 3-year period, with individual awards ranging from $50,000 for verbal discrimination to $2.3 million for passengers who were arrested or physically removed from aircraft. Marcus Bennett personally ensures that settlement amounts exceed traditional discrimination awards to establish a new financial standard that makes bias economically devastating for companies, rather than a manageable cost of business. Discrimination must cost more than prevention, Marcus explains during settlement negotiations. If companies can budget for bias lawsuits as ordinary business expenses, they'll continue discriminating. But if discrimination threatens their survival, they'll invest in equality. Federal prosecutors charge Carmen Rodriguez, Roberto Vega, and William Brooks with civil rights violations under Section 1983, marking the first time airline employees face federal criminal charges for passenger discrimination. The prosecutions establish legal precedent that individual employees cannot hide behind corporate policies when they violate passengers' constitutional rights. Carmen pleads guilty to federal civil rights violations and receives an 18-month prison sentence along with lifetime prohibition from working in transportation or security positions. Her case demonstrates that discrimination carries personal legal consequences beyond employment termination. Roberto receives a 3-year sentence and $75,000 fine after federal prosecutors prove he implemented discriminatory policies despite training that clearly prohibited such actions. His conviction establishes that supervisors face enhanced penalties when they institutionalize bias through official or unofficial procedures. William Brooks faces the most severe charges because his law enforcement background created higher legal standards for protecting civil rights. His 4-year federal sentence and lifetime ban from security work sends a clear message that discrimination by armed personnel represents a fundamental threat to constitutional protections. Bradley Whitmore avoids criminal prosecution but faces a $12 million civil judgment for conspiracy to violate civil rights. The settlement requires him to forfeit his trust fund and donate matching amounts to civil rights businesses, transforming his inherited wealth into support for equality initiatives. The legal precedents established through Gate B-47 prosecutions reshape discrimination law enforcement as federal prosecutors begin aggressively pursuing cases that previously would have been dismissed as civil matters. The criminal convictions demonstrate that bias isn't just morally wrong, it's criminally punishable. Insurance companies begin refusing coverage for discrimination-related lawsuits, forcing businesses to invest in prevention rather than relying on liability insurance to cover bias incidents. The insurance industry's withdrawal from discrimination coverage makes equality a financial necessity rather than a moral choice. Corporate legal departments across multiple industries implement bias prevention protocols based on the financial devastation that Unity Airlines inflicted on SkyTech's former management. Legal counsel begin advising clients that discrimination represents unacceptable financial risks in an era of social media documentation and aggressive federal prosecution. Marcus and Sophia Bennett board Unity Airlines Flight 401 to London, exactly 6 months after the Gate B-47 incident, finally taking the anniversary trip that discrimination had delayed but couldn't destroy. The aircraft they enter represents everything their ordeal accomplished: an industry transformed, policies reformed, and dignity restored to commercial aviation. Flight attendant Miguel Torres approaches their seats with the professionalism and warmth that Unity Airlines has made standard across all passenger interactions. Miguel was transferred from SkyTech's former operations, where he witnessed discrimination but felt powerless to intervene. Today he represents the cultural transformation that emerged from the darkest moments of airline prejudice. Matra and Mrs. Bennett, Miguel says with genuine enthusiasm, "Welcome aboard Unity Airlines. Thank you for making this possible." Marcus shakes Miguel's hand warmly. "Miguel, you're the one making this possible. Every day you choose to treat passengers with dignity, you prove that change is real and lasting." The cabin reflects Unity's revolutionary approach to air travel. No class divisions, no hierarchies based on ticket price, no visual markers of economic segregation. Every passenger enjoys spacious seating, quality service, and respectful treatment, regardless of their appearance or perceived social status. Sophia settles into her seat and looks around the cabin with satisfaction. She sees families of all backgrounds traveling together comfortably, teenagers helping elderly passengers with their luggage, business travelers sharing armrests without territorial disputes. The atmosphere feels fundamentally different from traditional airlines, where tension and hierarchy create artificial divisions between human beings. Baby Sophia says to Marcus, "Remember what that gate agent said about us not belonging in first class?" Marcus smiles as he watches a young black girl confidently ask the flight attendant for extra pillows while her parents review business documents nearby. She was right about one thing: we didn't belong in that first class. We belonged in something better. Captain Sarah Williams makes the pre-flight announcement with the kind of authority and inclusiveness that Unity Airlines requires from all leadership positions. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Williams. On behalf of our entire crew, welcome aboard Unity Airlines, where every passenger flies with dignity. We're honored to be your transportation partners today." The flight takes off smoothly, but Marcus doesn't focus on the mechanical aspects of aviation. Instead, he observes passenger interactions, crew responses, and the cultural dynamics that his decision to acquire SkyTech Airlines has created. Every positive moment represents validation that institutional change is possible when accountability meets determination. A young Hispanic mother traveling alone with 3 children receives immediate assistance from crew members who help organize her seating, provide entertainment for the children, and ensure her comfort throughout boarding. 6 months ago, this same family might have faced suspicion, additional screening, or challenges to their ticket legitimacy. Marcus pulls out his tablet and reviews Unity Airlines' performance metrics: 99.7%. Customer satisfaction, 0 discrimination, complaints, 340% increase in minority passenger bookings, and 87% employee retention despite complete cultural transformation. The numbers prove that treating people equally isn't just morally right, it's economically superior to discrimination. "Doctor?" Bennett Miguel approaches during the flight service. "I wanted you to know that my daughter is studying aviation management because of what you accomplished. She wants to work for an airline that values people the way Unity does." Marcus feels a deep sense of accomplishment that extends beyond business success to generational impact. "Miguel, tell your daughter that the airline industry needs leaders who understand that customer service means serving all customers equally. She'll have opportunities here when she's ready." Carmen Rodriguez stands behind the counter at a discount electronics store in Queens, processing returns and exchanges for customers who treat her with the same dismissive attitude she once showed airline passengers. The irony isn't lost on her. She now experiences daily what she inflicted on others when she had power over their travel experiences. Her employment applications to other airlines have been rejected due to her federal conviction for civil rights violations. The aviation industry that once provided her with career stability and middle-class income has closed its doors permanently. Her discrimination against Marcus and Sophia Bennett ended her 15-year career and destroyed her family's financial security. Carmen's 3 children attend public schools in a rougher neighborhood since the family had to sell their house and move to a smaller apartment. Her eldest daughter Maria, once proud of her mother's airline job, now faces questions from classmates who found news articles about Carmen's civil rights conviction through online searches. Mom, Maria, asks one evening while Carmen counts tips from her retail job, "Why did you treat those people badly at the airport?" Carmen struggles to explain prejudices that seem incomprehensible when examined honestly. "I made assumptions about people based on how they looked instead of treating everyone equally. It was wrong, and I'm paying the consequences." The conversation forces Carmen to confront the reality that her discrimination wasn't policy compliance or security consciousness. It was prejudice that she disguised as professional judgment. Her children deserve better than excuses for behavior that violated other people's dignity and destroyed their family's stability. Carmen begins attending community service programs focused on racial reconciliation and bias education, not because courts require it, but because she needs to understand how she became someone who could humiliate innocent people without questioning her actions. Bradley Whitmore faces a different kind of reckoning as his privileged life evaporates and he experiences vulnerability for the first time. His trust fund remains frozen following his civil rights settlement, forcing him to work minimum wage jobs while living in a studio apartment shared with 2 roommates who treat him with the same contempt he once showed others. Bradley's job at a fast food restaurant exposes him to the economic realities faced by people he previously dismissed as inferior. His co-workers include immigrants working multiple jobs to support families, students paying their own college expenses, and adults rebuilding their lives after various setbacks. Their work ethic and dignity challenge every assumption Bradley made about people who work service jobs. "Hey, trust fund baby," his manager calls during a busy lunch rush. Table 6 needs cleaning, and there's a spill in the men's restroom. "Move it." The humiliation of being ordered around by people he once considered beneath him forces Bradley to confront his own prejudices about work worth and human value. His coworkers know about his discriminatory behavior at JFK Airport because the videos remain easily searchable online, ensuring that his participation in racism follows him permanently. Bradley's father, Harrison Whitmore, refuses family reconciliation until Bradley demonstrates genuine understanding of how his actions harmed others. "Son, you can return to this family when you prove you understand that other people's dignity matters as much as your own comfort." The estrangement from his family's wealth and social connections forces Bradley to develop character qualities he never needed, while insulated by privilege, humility, empathy, and appreciation for other people's struggles. The transformation is painful but necessary for someone who celebrated watching innocent people get arrested for existing while black. Roberto Vega works as a night security guard at a warehouse facility, watching over inventory instead of managing airline operations. His federal conviction for civil rights violations ended his career in aviation management and destroyed his reputation in transportation industries. Roberto's wife, Elena, works double shifts as a nurse to compensate for his lost income. Their children attend community college instead of the private universities they once planned to afford. The family's financial decline directly results from Roberto's decision to implement discriminatory policies against passengers he assumed were committing fraud. Roberto Elena says after another rejection letter arrives from potential employers who discovered his federal conviction, "Help me understand how treating people badly seemed like the right thing to do." Roberto struggles with the same question that haunts Carmen. How did professional success become associated with suspicious treatment of minority customers? How did following company culture require violating other people's dignity? His reflection leads to uncomfortable recognition that discrimination felt natural because it confirmed prejudices he held but never examined. Roberto treated Marcus and Sophia Bennett as criminals because assuming black passengers were fraudsters required no evidence, it just required bias that airline culture encouraged rather than corrected. William Brooks serves his federal sentence in a minimum security facility where he participates in bias education programs designed to help law enforcement personnel understand how prejudice corrupts their duty to protect and serve all citizens equally. Brooks's 28 years in law enforcement end with disgrace rather than pension benefits. His career dedicated to maintaining order and safety concludes with conviction for violating the constitutional rights he swore to protect. Fellow inmates include other law enforcement officers convicted of civil rights violations, creating an uncomfortable community of people who abused authority they were trusted to exercise fairly. Their conversations reveal common patterns, assumptions about certain demographics, cultural training that encouraged suspicion rather than service, and professional environments that rewarded bias rather than equity. Brooks says former police sergeant David Martinez during a group counseling session, "We all thought we were doing our jobs correctly because discrimination felt like good police work. But we confused prejudice with protection." The recognition forces Brooks to examine decades of law enforcement decisions where he treated people differently based on race rather than behavior. His arrest of Marcus Bennett wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a career spent enforcing laws unequally based on skin color rather than evidence. Unity Airlines emerges as the most successful airline transformation in aviation history, demonstrating that equality isn't just morally required, it's economically superior to discrimination. Customer loyalty reaches unprecedented levels as passengers choose carriers based on dignity rather than just price and convenience. Passenger testimonials reveal the emotional impact of flying without fear of humiliation. I traveled Unity Airlines for the first time last month and realized I had been holding my breath on other airlines for years. This is what air travel should feel like: respectful, dignified human. The airline's success attracts top talent from across the aviation industry as professionals want to work for companies that treat customers and employees equally. Unity's employee satisfaction ratings exceed industry standards by 340%, as workers experience environments where bias is prevented rather than encouraged. Miguel Torres receives promotion to senior flight attendant and begins training new crew members in Unity's cultural standards. His personal transformation from silent witness to active advocate for equality represents thousands of airline employees who found courage to demand better from their industry. I spent years watching passengers get mistreated and telling myself it wasn't my responsibility to intervene, Miguel explains to new Unity employees. Dr. Bennett showed me that equality is everyone's responsibility, especially people with the power to make change happen. Unity Airlines establishes scholarship programs for minority students pursuing aviation careers, ensuring that the next generation of airline professionals reflects the diversity of passengers they serve. The scholarships include mentorship programs that connect students with Unity executives who provide guidance and support throughout their education and early career development. The Bennett Foundation, directed by Sophia Bennett, expands its educational mission to include aviation industry reform initiatives. The foundation provides grants to universities developing bias prevention curricula, supports research on discrimination in transportation, and funds community programs that prepare minority students for leadership positions in aviation. Marcus Bennett receives recognition from civil rights businesses, business leaders, and government officials for demonstrating how economic power can advance social justice. His approach of acquiring companies to eliminate discrimination becomes known as the Bennett model and inspires other successful minorities to use their resources for institutional change. Dr. Bennett proved that you don't have to accept discrimination as the price of doing business, says NAACP President Michael Johnson. His transformation of the airline industry shows that equality is achievable when commitment meets resources. The success extends beyond Unity Airlines as other carriers implement similar reforms to compete for passengers who now expect dignity as a basic component of customer service. The entire aviation industry evolves as companies realize that discrimination represents unacceptable financial risks in an era of social media accountability and aggressive federal enforcement. As Unity Airlines Flight 401 begins its final descent into London, Marcus and Sophia Bennett reflect on the journey that brought them from humiliation at Gate B47 to transformation of an entire industry. The anniversary trip they attempted to take 6 months ago finally becomes reality, but their destination matters less than the changes they created along the way. Baby Sophia says, looking out the window at the lights of London below, "Do you think we would have changed anything if that gate agent had just treated us with basic respect?" Marcus considers the question seriously. Maybe not the airline industry specifically, but we would have found other ways to fight discrimination. Injustice doesn't take breaks just because individual companies act decently. Captain Williams announces their arrival with the professionalism and inclusiveness that defines Unity Airlines. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to London Heathrow. On behalf of Unity Airlines, thank you for allowing us to be your travel partners. We're honored to have shared this journey with you. The landing is smooth, but Marcus and Sophia don't rush to deplane. They watch other passengers gather their belongings with the relaxed satisfaction of people who traveled without anxiety, discrimination, or humiliation. Families smile together. Business travelers offer help to fellow passengers, and children excitedly discuss their destination without fear that their presence might be questioned or challenged. A young black businessman approaches Marcus as passengers begin leaving the aircraft. "Dr. Bennett, I wanted to thank you. This is my first business trip where I didn't worry about whether I looked professional enough for the seat I paid for. That peace of mind is priceless." Marcus shakes the man's hand warmly. "That peace of mind should be standard for every passenger, not a luxury we have to fight for. Safe travels." Miguel Torres appears at their seats as the cabin empties. "Dr. and Mrs. Bennett, it's been an honor serving you today. Have a wonderful anniversary celebration." Sophia hugs Miguel warmly. "Miguel, you and every Unity employee make this possible every day. Thank you for proving that change is real and lasting." Marcus and Sophia are the last passengers to leave the aircraft, walking slowly through the cabin that represents everything their ordeal accomplished. The space feels sacred somehow, like a church where miracles of human dignity occur routinely rather than exceptionally. As they step off the plane, Marcus turns back for a final look at the Unity Airlines logo on the aircraft's exterior. The symbol represents more than corporate rebranding. It embodies proof that institutions can be reformed when accountability meets determination. Marcus Sophia says, taking his arm as they walk through the jet bridge, "I'm proud of what we accomplished. But I'm prouder of how we accomplished it with dignity instead of revenge, with justice instead of anger." Marcus smiles as they enter Heathrow Airport, where diverse passengers from Unity's flight move through customs and immigration without the anxiety that discrimination creates in travel experiences. Love. We didn't just change an airline. We proved that equality isn't impossible. It's inevitable when enough people demand it. Their 25th anniversary celebration begins in London, but their real gift to each other was the transformation of an industry that now serves all passengers with the dignity that Marcus and Sophia fought to secure. The discrimination they experienced became the catalyst for changes that will protect millions of travelers for generations to come. Behind them, Unity Airlines Flight 401 prepares for its return journey to New York, carrying passengers who will travel with dignity because two people refused to accept humiliation as the price of flying while black in America. The story that began with Bradley Whitmore's snapping fingers and Carmen Rodriguez's discriminatory assumptions ends with an industry transformed, careers rebuilt on equality rather than prejudice, and proof that justice delayed doesn't have to mean justice denied. In the end, Marcus and Sophia Bennett didn't just reach their destination, they changed the journey for everyone who will follow. What happened to Dr. Marcus and Mrs. Sophia Bennett could have ended with litigation settlements and forgotten promises to do better. Instead, their experience became the catalyst for the most comprehensive transformation in aviation industry history. Today, Unity Airlines maintains 99.8% customer satisfaction with zero discrimination complaints, while other carriers have adopted similar equality standards to compete for passengers who expect dignity as a basic component of air travel. The Gate B-47 incident proved that viral documentation of injustice combined with economic consequences for discrimination creates accountability that policies and training alone cannot achieve. When prejudice becomes economically devastating rather than financially manageable, institutions choose equality not from moral conviction but from business necessity. If you've experienced discrimination while traveling or anywhere else, your story matters. Share it. Document it, and demand accountability. Change happens when enough people refuse to accept injustice as normal business practice. If this story moved you, hit that like button to help it reach more people who need to hear this message. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about justice, accountability, and the power of standing up for what's right. And share this video with someone who believes that dignity should be universal, not conditional. Your engagement helps these stories spread and creates the awareness that prevents discrimination from hiding in the shadows. Together, we can make sure that no one else has to experience what Dr. and Mrs. Bennett went through. Because when we document injustice, demand accountability, and support each other, we create a world where everyone can travel with dignity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.